I was the mute child abandoned by a wealthy family and left to fend for myself in an old town. One day, I unexpectedly came across a tall, handsome alpha. Unfortunately, he was a bit of a fool. People said the mute boy and the dumb one made a perfect pair, so I brought him home, and just like that, we started dating. But one day, that fool stopped being foolish. Through the crack of the door, I saw his sharp, cold features and heard his indifferent voice. You think I could ever fall for someone who can't even speak? Of course not. There are plenty of perfect omegas around, young master. In that moment, it felt like I fell into an icy abyss. My whole body froze. I immediately hid the ultrasound report and ran. But before long, my family caught me and sent me off for an arranged marriage. In that room, the alpha had me pinned to the headboard. His familiar face drew close. His eyes dark and dangerous. Landon, where do you think you're going with my baby? 1. The first time I saw Brooks was on a misty, rainy afternoon. The quiet old town suddenly grew a little noisy ahead. I walked over and saw the neighbors crowding around a stranger, all talking at once. He was a tall, strikingly handsome alpha. His clothes were oversized and mismatched, his face scratched and slightly disheveled, but even that couldn't hide how good-looking he was. Still, there was something off. His eyes were vacant, and his hands fidgeted anxiously. He wore a clueless expression, far too innocent for someone his age and appearance. I pulled out a small notebook, wrote a sentence, and handed it to someone nearby. What's going on? Oh, Landon, you're here. She patted my shoulder and explained. Some fool showed up. No idea if he got lost or was dumped. He won't answer any questions, and he refuses to go to the police. I looked up and locked eyes with the alpha. His gaze was deep and dazed, filled with curiosity, and a flicker of wonder. Hey, doesn't Landon still need a partner? Why don't you just take him home? I mean, sure he's a little slow, but he's good-looking. Someone joked in the crowd. As the teasing grew louder, the man took a few steps toward me. On impulse, I brought him home. I couldn't speak. Just as I was stressing about how to communicate with him, I wrote a sentence and showed it to him, and to my surprise, he understood. He could read, and he spoke clearly. He just acted like a child, innocent, naive, his behavior not quite matching his physical presence. So, just like I did with others, I used my notebook to talk to him. Where are you from? Do you have family? Family? He tilted his head like he was trying to remember. I don't know, they disappeared. My heart trembled. A thought crept into my mind. Could it be, like me, he'd been abandoned for being different? I asked, did they leave you behind? Aha, they don't want me anymore. What's your name? I told him, I'm Landon. I wasn't a local. 3 years ago, I'd been thrown out by my family and ended up in this southern water town by chance. I decided to stay. By luck, I found a master who taught me traditional Suzhou embroidery, a national heritage craft, and that's how I've made a living ever since. I lived right in the town. The house wasn't big, just one bedroom with a bed large enough for 2. I told him he could live here from now on, that we could share a simple life together. Maybe not rich, but we'd never go hungry. He was overjoyed. He smiled so big, his eyes sparkled. 2. With someone else around, the house felt livelier. Most of the time, I stayed in my workroom doing embroidery, mostly scarves and decorative fans. The first time he saw me embroidering, he sat quietly nearby, watching with wide-eyed curiosity. As I continued, wonder bloomed across his face. Wow, you're amazing, like an innocent child. He added, Landon, you're really amazing. He insisted on calling me Landon, maybe because, in his mind, it felt more intimate. He was very clingy. If he didn't see me for 10 minutes, he'd start anxiously looking around, calling Landon over and over. Since I couldn't speak, I did my best to show up quickly whenever he looked for me. He was just like me, longing for company. Despite his mental immaturity, he was surprisingly nimble. When he stayed with me in the studio, he would help sort my tools and pass materials to me on time. At first, he was clumsy and messed up constantly, but over time, he improved. Before I knew it, he was actually pretty good, passable. Even, as a little assistant, he was very considerate. He never bothered me while I was working, but during breaks or meals, he'd chatter away like a little sparrow, asking me all kinds of questions. Even though I could only reply with written notes, it never seemed to discourage him. One day, he asked, Landon, why can't you talk? Because I was injured. I wasn't born mute. A few years back, an accident damaged my vocal cords. I missed the best window for treatment, and after that, I could never speak again. He pouted, clearly upset. Then he clenched his fists and said with all seriousness, from now on, I'll protect Landon, so Landon will never get hurt again. A soft ache stirred in my chest. I knew that promise meant little, just words from an alpha with the mind of a child, but still, it was the first time anyone had ever said something like that to me. I couldn't help but feel moved. 3. I bought him a bunch of fairy tale books, so he could entertain himself and didn't have to stay in the studio all the time. What I didn't expect was that they'd become his nightly bedtime stories. For me, on a faraway planet lived a little star, all alone because he had no other stars to play with. His voice was naturally deep, with a cool, magnetic quality, but when he read with childlike emotion and inflection, the sharpness vanished. It was soothing, almost musical. From that day on, the little star and his new friends lit up the night sky together. His gentle voice lulled me into sleep. Every morning, the first person I saw when I opened my eyes was him. Sometimes it was his peaceful sleeping face. Sometimes it was him staring intently at me, wide-eyed. The town wasn't too commercialized, but there were always tourists passing through. Once or twice a week, I'd set up a little booth on the street to sell my work. When I first learned the craft, my teacher praised my natural talent, said my stitches had spirit and finesse. Business was good. I even had a bit of a name for myself, with customers traveling long distances just to buy from me. After he arrived, the booth gained a new helper. He would proudly introduce my pieces to curious tourists, and whenever someone tried to bargain, he'd say, "These were handmade by Landon, absolutely priceless." Everyone would burst out laughing and gladly buy something. Soon, people around town began calling the simple-minded alpha always by my side, Landon's superfan. 4. Life in the ancient town was calm and slow-paced. An old uncle insisted on giving me a second-hand TV his family no longer used, so in the evenings, I'd sit with him on our small couch and watch TV together. Like most boys, he had a hero complex, and he was obsessed with Ultraman. Whenever a fight scene came on, he'd jump to his feet, seriously imitating the transformation poses and energy blasts. When I took out my phone and started snapping photos with a smile, he got even more into it. He was already naturally handsome, and with that enthusiasm, he really did look like the main character. After he got more familiar with the surroundings, he'd sometimes head out to explore and come back with food or little trinkets for me. I liked to think I was a hard-working person, except for the habit of sleeping in. But now, every morning when I woke up, there would be a steaming hot breakfast waiting for me. He'd patiently sit at the table, and the moment he saw me, he'd flash that goofy but sincere smile. "Morning, Landon, thank you." Honestly, it felt wrong always letting Brooks buy me food, but that didn't stop me from enjoying it. One sunny afternoon, he stared at me for a long time, eyes bright and focused. When he still didn't say anything, I wrote, "What is it?" He stammered a bit, face flushing red, before finally blurting out, "Landon, can we kiss now?" When I didn't respond right away, he added, "They say I'm your alpha, and we're supposed to get married someday, so we should kiss and hug and build our relationship." I thought about it and wrote back, "That's something you do with someone you love." He answered with certainty, "I love Landon." No one could bear to turn down such honest, wholehearted affection. In the end, I simply wrote, "I'm not ready yet." 5. After that, he asked me the same question every day. "Landon, are you ready now?" Once in the morning, again at noon, and again in the evening. He never forgot. A fine drizzle misted over the rippling water, veiling the scene like a moving ink painting. He and I sat side by side on a black awning boat, swaying gently with the current, enjoying the peaceful silence. He leaned close, took my hand, and played with it. His gaze was clear and sincere. "Landon, are you ready now?" I looked at him, dazed, and felt a ripple in my heart like the misty rain outside. I nodded, finally giving an answer different from before. His lips met mine with warmth. It was clumsy, rushed, clearly inexperienced, but even so, my whole body softened under his kiss, heart pounding uncontrollably. Just before pulling away, he even gave my lower lip a playful bite. "Landon, you taste so sweet." He hugged me tightly, smiling with joy. That kiss changed everything. Our relationship grew closer by the day, until it was completely out of control. We shared a blanket at night, and he'd always fall asleep holding me. He became even more clingy, kissing and hugging me all the time. And I slowly fell for this raw, unreserved affection. If I'm being honest, I did like him. He adored me, treated me better than anyone ever had. Because of him, this cold, silent house became warm and full of life. I wanted to open my eyes every morning and see him. I wanted him to stay by my side, forever. 6. The mute boy and the big dummy fell in love. The neighbors who had always looked after me in the old town all knew about it. While they genuinely congratulated me, I also noticed a hint of pity in their eyes. I understood. Two people with flaws getting together, it usually didn't mean a happy ending, but I didn't think that way. I truly enjoyed the life I had now. It was steady and peaceful. I had someone beside me, and each day felt full. It didn't have to be some grand, passionate love story. This quiet kind of life felt like happiness to me. That morning, as usual, I woke up wrapped in his arms. His large hands around my waist were hot and strong. His low, groggy voice mumbled in my ear, "Landon, I feel weird." At the same time, I felt something burning pressing against my lower back. Any trace of sleep disappeared instantly. He sounded innocent and aggrieved. It stood up. What do I do? The cool scent of mint filled the air, wrapping around me like it was alive, caressing my skin. I took a slow breath, feeling heat spread through every inch of me. Turning to face him, his handsome face came into view, so close. My heart skipped a beat. I looked up and fluttered my lashes at him, then kissed him. He responded with even more intensity, hands roaming with unrestrained urgency. The scent of jasmine mingled with mint, dancing around us. I didn't know how long it lasted. At some point, his mouth found the nape of my neck, licking and kissing gently. My body trembled uncontrollably. Then, his sharp canines broke through the gland beneath my skin and sank in. He released his pheromones into me. I couldn't make a sound. My eyes went hazy, lips parted in breathy, kitten-like whimpers. The marking was complete. He held me close, one large hand gently stroking my back. Then he leaned down, blew softly on the small, swollen mark, and cooed like coaxing a child. "Good boy, Landon, it doesn't hurt anymore, does it?" I closed my eyes and fell asleep again, comforted by the scent of mint. 7. Even though it was only a temporary mark, I could feel myself growing more and more dependent on him. I'd instinctively look for him, craving his closeness. At first, I was too embarrassed to admit it, but for someone who'd been marked by an alpha, his scent became an irresistible pull. I couldn't take it anymore, so I wrote something in my notebook, lowered my head, and held the message above my head for him to see. "Brooks, can you spend more time with me?" He lit up with excitement, thrilled by my reaction. He pulled me into his arms, kissed me over and over, and kept murmuring "wife" under his breath, calming me with his pheromones. I had every reason to believe he had a natural gift for physical affection. His hugs and kisses became smoother and more practiced, leaving me breathless every time. Then one day, his rut hit, suddenly and fiercely. The strong scent of mint poured into the room, thick and overwhelming. He pinned me tightly in his arms, burying his face into my neck, inhaling deeply. "Landon, Landon, baby, my wife." His breath was scorching, his whispers full of need, his dark eyes flushed red, and his whole body burned. Surrounded by that intense pheromone cloud, I felt my own body heating up. I was entering heat, pulled under by his influence. His kisses grew more urgent and desperate. Instinctively, I clutched his broad shoulders, bodies pressed and moved in sync. My vision blurred with tears. Broken, breathless sounds slipped from my lips, and I sank into the wild sea of desire with him. Jasmine and mint entangled, twining tightly in the air, refusing to fade. 8. He really was naturally gifted at this kind of thing. For 3 whole days and nights, except for meals and bathroom breaks, he practically kept me pinned to the bed, tossing me around. When I finally woke up, it was already the afternoon of the 4th day. The alpha's rut had finally passed. My body felt weak, like it was falling apart. I lay there sluggishly, not wanting to move a muscle. He brought back a bunch of food and patiently fed me by hand. The pain and guilt in his eyes were clear as day. I leaned against him, but inside, I felt sweetness. On my birthday, on a whim, I bought a cake and brought it home to share with him. Before, I was always alone on my birthday, so I never cared much. But now, I had someone to celebrate with. He couldn't even remember his own birthday, so he just decided that today would be ours together. I also bought him an authentic Ultraman Zero transformation device as a gift. The cake was sweet and delicious. We lit candles and made wishes. When he opened his eyes, he eagerly told me his wish. "I want to be with Landon forever." The candlelight softened his handsome features, making him look so gentle. I smiled. That night, we stayed up late again, half asleep. I felt him hang something around my neck and press a kiss to my forehead. "Landon, this is for you. Happy birthday." I was so tired that I closed my eyes and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, I woke up to find a jade ring hanging around my neck. It felt smooth and fine, like it held 1,000 years worth of moonlight. radiating an aura of nobility and mystery. I asked him where it came from. He said he'd been carrying it with him all along. I stared at the ring, and an odd feeling stirred deep inside me, a strange unease. 9 days passed as usual. One evening while watching TV with him, I flipped the channel and unexpectedly saw Nolan on screen, bright and prince-like. My half-brother, unlike me, who was abandoned. He was the legitimate young master, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I switched channels without changing expression, and subconsciously leaned closer to Brooks. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on the back of my head. Landon, are you cold? If I hold you, you won't be. I thought I'd live this peaceful life forever. That day, I went out alone to buy groceries. Suddenly, I felt a cramp in my lower belly, a dull ache spreading. I'd had little appetite lately, sometimes headaches and nausea, tightness in my chest. Since I was already out, I went straight to the hospital. The test results surprised me but made sense. I was pregnant. 3 weeks along. On the way home, it still felt unreal, and I was dizzy. I was going to have a baby, our baby, in a few months. The house would be filled with little coos and cries. We'd become a family of 3. I quickened my pace, eager to share the news with him. What would his reaction be? 10. But when I got home, I heard a strange voice through the slightly open door. Master, when will you return to the capital? A familiar voice answered, soon. Through the crack, I saw a man in a suit standing respectfully before him, and him, my big dummy, whom I knew too well, now sitting lazily and elegantly in a chair. The childlike innocence was completely gone, his sharp brows furrowed, expression cold and indifferent, his handsome features showing a trace of impatience, radiating an untouchable aura. The suited man asked again, what about the person living with you? Will you take him back? He glanced at him carelessly, voice cutting. You think I'd like a mute? Of course not. There are plenty of top-quality omegas around the master. I froze, as if icy chills surged from my feet to every part of my body, blood freezing in my veins. I didn't hear what they said after that. Like a puppet on strings, I moved my feet and left the house. I wandered aimlessly outside for a long time, then returned home. It was quiet inside. He wasn't there. I sighed in relief and entered, calmly packing my things. I packed quickly, taking only what I needed. Before leaving, I thought for a moment and took off the jade ring, placing it somewhere obvious. Then I grabbed a fairy tale book we had read together, just to keep a memento. Compared to being abandoned again, I preferred to leave with dignity. I bought a ticket on a whim, carrying my few belongings, and boarded the train, just wanting to get as far away as possible. Actually, everything had signs. The sudden appearance of him, that jade ring, clearly valuable, but I was selfish and greedy, clinging to the slightest hope. I unlocked my phone and instinctively opened the photo gallery. The screen was filled with pictures of him smiling at me. The emotions I'd been suppressing flooded out, hurt, sadness, and pain all tangled up, almost suffocating me. Tap, tap, tears dropped onto the screen, blurring his face. I was a mute everyone hated. At this point, all I could do was cry silently in my helplessness, even though I was about to have a real family. 11. The days after leaving him were harder than I imagined. I couldn't sleep at night, and had little appetite during the day. Without the soothing comfort of alpha pheromones, a nameless anxiety tormented me constantly. I had no energy for anything. The occasional cramps seemed to warn me the baby wasn't happy. I forced myself to eat. I had a baby. I wanted him to be born safe and sound. Those foggy, miserable days went on for about 2 weeks. What I didn't expect was that they came looking for me. After a long time, I saw that cold face again, my biological father, Marshall. I hadn't brought my notebook, so I signed to him. What do you want to do? He hadn't learned sign language, so he couldn't understand. With the same impatience and disdain as always, he said, you're only good for this much. He added, that person specifically asked for you. They want you because of your looks. Later, I found out that Marshall was trying to force me into a marriage alliance. It was ridiculous. I hadn't even met that person. They went through all this trouble to bring me home. This marriage must benefit them somehow. But why? I was a child Marshall had already abandoned. Why should I be sacrificed for their gain? I refuse. We cut ties long ago. You have no right to decide my marriage. I'm leaving. I signed or wrote down my resistance with my phone, but it was useless. Marshall wouldn't let me leave and ignored my protests. He hired people to watch me, not allowing me to step outside the house. Alone and helpless, I had no way to fight back. 12. 2 days later, Nolan swaggered into my room. That handsome face was full of disdain and contempt. You might have a pretty face that attracts people, But so what if you marry him? He'll never like anyone else, especially not a mute like you. Just wait, he'll toy with you until you're done for. Nolan looked at me with a nasty smile curling at the corner of his mouth. He never liked me, and now that he had the chance to kick me when I'm down, he was clearly delighted. I ignored him. From past experience, the more I responded, the more excited and relentless he became. Marshall had been openly and covertly warning me to behave and not even think about running from the arranged marriage. He seemed really wary of whoever this match was. I didn't know who it was, and honestly, I didn't want to know. I wasn't willing to marry him anyway. When Marshall lectured me again at length, I told him I'd already been marked by an alpha and was pregnant. That fake smile froze on his face, slowly replaced by anger. Marshall slammed the teacup onto the floor, making a sharp crash. A few drops of hot tea splashed onto the back of my hand, stinging sharply. I kept my expression calm and looked at him steadily. Shameless, disgraceful, he accused, pointing at me. You're just messing around all day. Nolan was there too. When he heard the news, he laughed until tears came. Mockingly, he said, "You're finished." Marshall still didn't change his mind about forcing me into the arranged marriage. They didn't treat me badly in terms of food or clothing while I was there. I didn't want to see either of them, so I stayed in my room every day without going out. I told myself I still had a chance. If I ever met the match, I'd be honest about my situation. Surely no one would want to marry an Omega marked for life and pregnant. Late at night, I often thought about those peaceful, happy days in the old town. The Alpha's eyes reflected only me, his embrace warm and reassuring. But in dreams, that gentle face turned cold as ice. I could never like a mute. 13. After half a month, a few people suddenly came and took me away. The leader was young and dressed in a black suit. I didn't know his identity, but Marshall treated him with utmost respect. I guess this was to meet the arranged marriage match, so I didn't resist. Quietly, I followed them to a mansion. It was huge and luxurious, unlike anything I'd ever seen, more like a castle. Surprisingly, everyone there was very kind to me. "Welcome, young master." Someone greeted me right at the door and took my luggage. "Leave it to us." Instinctively, I signed, "Thank you." "You're welcome. What would you like to eat?" "Anything is fine. I'm not picky." I was stunned. She could understand sign language. I stayed until night but didn't see that person again. At first, I was anxious and cautious, but gradually I relaxed. This place didn't seem as bad as I feared, at least for now. They treated me well. The bed under me was big and soft. After sitting for a while with no one coming, I checked my phone. It was almost midnight. Sleepiness hit me, and I lay down, closing my eyes. Half dreaming, I seemed to fall into that familiar, warm embrace again. I slept unexpectedly well. When I opened my eyes, I saw his sharply defined face, just like countless mornings before. I blinked in surprise, realizing I was still dreaming. The dream felt so real. I could even smell his cool, comforting minty pheromones. My body relaxed in a way it hadn't for a long time. Soon, the Alpha opened his eyes. His ink-black eyes reflected my sleepy face. Since it was a dream, maybe I could do something. Thinking this, I looped an arm around his neck, pulled him close, and buried my head in his chest. I really missed him. Even after hearing that he didn't like me, memories and moments together still surged up, stirring feelings I couldn't ignore, trembling and longing. "Landon." I felt his hands on the back of my head, gently stroking. "Good morning. What do you want to eat?" "I'll ask the cook." His deep voice came from above, and I could even feel the slight vibrations in his chest as he spoke. My groggy mind cleared, memories returning. I finally realized this wasn't a dream. Almost instinctively, I pushed the man away, pulling out of his arms. I quickly sat up, clutching the blanket nervously as I stared at him. "Had a nightmare?" He frowned. "Don't be afraid. Husband's here to hold you." He reached out to pull me back into his arms. I stepped back, dodging him. 14. I could feel he'd truly changed. He wasn't dumb anymore. His natural sharpness was there, and his whole aura was completely different from the harmless, silly boy he used to be. But why was he still speaking to me so gently? I couldn't understand and pursed my lips, without caring if he could understand. I signed, "Stay away from me." His expression darkened. "No way." He closed the distance without asking and grabbed my wrist, pinning me against the headboard. His dark eyes glinted dangerously. "Landon, where are you going with my baby?" I widened my eyes. How did he know? "You're not him." I pulled my hand away and signed again. "Why wouldn't I be?" The man stepped closer, pointing to a mark on his exposed collarbone. "Look, you bit me." He wasn't wearing a shirt, just knee-length shorts. His muscles were defined, wild and beautiful. After our nights together, we knew each other's bodies well. When I woke earlier, I hadn't noticed anything wrong. Now hearing him say that, a flush of embarrassment crept in. After hesitating, I signed, "He likes Ultraman." That face, so stunning it distracted me, showed a faint, almost imperceptible blush of shame, but soon his expression returned to normal. "You're right, I do like it. I still have the transformation device you gave me. Want to see it?" That left me totally confused. After a moment of silence, I gave up and decided to be honest. "I heard everything you said to that person that day." I signed, a strong bitterness rising in my chest. "You're right, I'm just a mute, and you don't like me, and that's understandable." But before I could finish, he pulled me into his arms tightly. I couldn't see his face, but his loving, low murmur whispered in my ear, "You're my Landon, my baby, my only husband." Lies, he never said that before. I pushed him lightly, but he held on tight. I couldn't break free. "Sorry, my dear Landon." He kissed my earlobe. "He's not one of my men." What he said was just to put him at ease. The main family was unstable before, but it's all settled now. None of those words were true. His naturally cool voice now sounded a little vulnerable and apologetic. "But everything I told you before, every word, was sincere. I like you, a lot, Landon. You didn't come home for a long time that day. I went looking for you but couldn't find you anywhere. When I got home and saw you were gone, do you know how worried and upset I was? I was stunned and didn't know how to respond. Was he telling the truth? Could I trust him? Logic told me not to believe so easily, but my racing heart and the joy almost bursting out betrayed my feelings. I was happy. Hearing him say he truly liked me made me so happy. He held me for a long time. When he finally let go, he kissed my forehead, nose, cheeks, and lips, affectionate and natural. His kisses made me burn all over. When he finally stopped, he held me tight again, not letting go. Suddenly, I asked, "Can you understand sign language?" "Yeah," he smiled. "I've been learning recently." So, it was for me. 15. He's not called just he, his full name is Brooks. Only later did I slowly learn that he is now the head of the first family, a man of overwhelming power. They say he's ruthless, cruel, moody, cold-hearted, and heartless, a business tycoon who can dominate the capital city with one hand. Anyone who crosses him ends badly. They call him the cold-faced king of hell. But watching Brooks take such care of me, personally attending to every detail, I felt this reputation was exaggerated, surely made up by his enemies. He's actually very gentle and treats me as well as before. The alpha isn't dumb anymore, no longer excitedly imitating transformation moves or eagerly watching stories like ants moving or kitten chasing mouse. But he still calls me Landon over and over, with a soft, lingering tenderness. He's with me every moment, hugging and kissing. At first, I felt a bit uneasy and nervous. After all, his masculine aura is overwhelming, and he naturally exudes a coldness. After some time together, all my worries completely faded away. He put that jade ring back around my neck. I could vaguely feel how important it was. Looking at his calm but resolute expression, I swallowed my refusal and silently resolved to protect that ring carefully from now on. His family is huge, and there's always plenty of food, each meal is different, and there are all kinds of entertainment rooms. Whatever you want to play, you can, but I still liked being with him. Maybe because of the baby, and because I hadn't seen him in so long, my dependence on Alpha reached an unprecedented level. I felt restless whenever I couldn't see him even for a moment. Brooks knew this and always held me in his arms, gently patting my back and releasing pheromones to soothe me. Feeling embarrassed, I told him, "Once this period is over, I won't cling to you so much." "Why?" He frowned in dissatisfaction. "If Landon doesn't want his husband, who else would he want?" "Ha! I beg you, cling to me." With my father's company, the baby inside my belly was much calmer, but not long after, Brooks still took me for a full prenatal checkup. Fortunately, everything was normal. Afterward, instead of leaving, he took me to have my throat examined. I didn't have much hope, since I had lost my voice for years, and when they took me to the hospital before, the response was that it couldn't be treated. So when the doctor said I only had vocal cord damage, and with treatment there was full potential for recovery, I was surprised and delighted. "I'll be treated." Before I could fully react, the person beside me said firmly, "I want the best treatment plan." After that, I underwent many detailed tests. Brooks even hired several well-known doctors to form an expert team dedicated to deciding and implementing my treatment plan. They found that besides vocal cord damage, A key reason I couldn't speak was a huge psychological trauma. During gentle questioning by the psychologist, my thoughts went back to that desperate day, in the collapsed house. My mom shielded me with her body. Warm blood dripped onto my temple, staining my eye socket with a bloody red. I screamed and roared, trying to send my voice beyond the layers of rubble. But a long time passed. Long enough for the heartbeat on my back to calm and fade away. Long enough for me to nearly lose consciousness. Still, no glimmer of hope came. When I woke again, I found myself in the hospital. I was saved, but Mom, the only person who ever truly cared for me in the world, was gone forever that day. From your description, I can feel the pain, despair, and guilt in your heart then. But one fact is that the disaster that took your mother's life was unstoppable. You did everything you could, made the greatest effort possible. Your mother loved you deeply and I believe she never regretted protecting you until her last moment. Maybe you can try to forgive yourself and come out from that hopeless ruin. I blinked blankly, squeezing his hand tightly. 16. Vocal cord treatment and psychological therapy went hand in hand. Brooks said I would have vocal cord repair surgery in a week. If all went well, I would be able to speak again soon after. That was something I never thought possible. I had assumed I'd never speak again, that I'd be mute forever. Alpha wrapped his arms around me from behind, slightly leaning his head on my shoulder, whispering, "Landon, don't be afraid. The surgery has a high success rate. I won't let anything happen to you." I nodded softly. He asked, "Did Auntie say anything to you back then?" Buried memories gradually became clear. I raised my hand and signed 2 words. Healthy, happy. That was her blessing for me. "Yeah, she did," Brooks said. "Auntie is in heaven. She'll be very happy to see you well." I relaxed my face and gave him a faint smile. Alpha leaned in and kissed me repeatedly. "Landon, baby, I want to hear your voice. I want to say good morning and good night to you. I want to hear you call my name. Say you love me at night. In bed, I want you to hum softly to affirm me while you hold my shoulder." He got more playful and teasing, and I quickly covered his mouth. The night before the surgery, I couldn't sleep well, lying in Brooks' arms, tossing and turning. After one more toss, Alpha's hand tightened on my waist, and he let out a soft sigh. Feeling the heat behind me, I stopped moving immediately. Sleeping together sometimes led to sparks flying, but with the baby, we naturally had to be more careful. We could only find other ways to relieve tension. "Baby, go to sleep first." Brooks got up and went to the bathroom, but when he came back, I still couldn't sleep. I looked at him and signed, "I want a story." Sitting up, I leaned into his arms. Alpha held that nearly worn-out fairy tale book and slowly began. "Once upon a time, in a forest, lived a timid little fox." His deep, magnetic voice lulled me to sleep without realizing it. 17. The surgery was very successful. After the recovery period, the doctor said I could try speaking. Brooks stared at me intently, his usually calm face showing some nervousness. I curled my fingers and slightly parted my lips, trying to make a sound. Surprise and joy surged through me. I realized I really could speak, so I kept trying. "Brooks." I called his full name haltingly, clumsily, my voice a little hoarse, but the smile and excitement in Brooks' eyes almost overflowed. He leaned in and gently kissed the corner of my mouth. "Yeah, I'm here. Landon, you're amazing." Although I was healed, because I had lost my voice for years, it would take some time to speak normally again. Brooks became my practice partner. He patiently helped me practice pronunciation, praising me like a child again and again. Lately, he was almost always with me, probably neglecting work a lot. When I felt my throat had mostly recovered, I sent him back to work. Staying home alone was boring, so I asked to continue my previous work, which I really liked anyway. Brooks immediately bought me a large batch of top-quality Sioux embroidery materials and even arranged a dedicated workspace at home just for me. When we couldn't see each other during the day, he called me on video. I saw him sitting at his desk, dressed sharply in a suit. "Landon, are you tired? Take a break." "No, I'm not," I replied, my speech still a bit slow and hesitant. "Are you tired?" He smiled. "I'm not tired either. I just miss you too much." His handsome face enlarged on the screen. He turned his head and teased, "Baby, give me a kiss, okay? Otherwise, I won't have the motivation to work." After hesitating for a moment, seeing no one else around him, I slowly puckered and blew a kiss to the camera. He grinned triumphantly. "Thanks, baby, love you." Those cheesy words came out effortlessly, and I blushed and looked down shyly. Alpha persistently asked, "Baby, how about you? Do you miss me?" I pressed my lips. "I do." 18. Life went on as usual, And the baby grew day by day inside me. Brooks and I set our wedding date for a month later. Lately, I'd been sleeping more and feeling constantly tired. That day, Brooks said he wanted to take me to a charity auction gala. Before leaving, I still felt sluggish and a bit sleepy. Seeing this, Brooks said, "How about we skip it today? Baby can rest at home." I sat on the edge of the bed, looking up at him. "I want to go." Since it was already agreed upon, I didn't want to ruin his mood. Alpha crouched down with one hand on his knee, gently holding my ankle to help me put on my shoe. Watching his serious expression, I impulsively reached out to touch his head. He looked like a big, loyal dog. The gala was lively. The hall was grand and magnificent, with dazzling, intertwining lights. As soon as we entered, I felt many eyes turn toward Brooks and me. Tonight we wore matching suits. Brooks had told the designer this was couple's attire. I felt a little uneasy facing so many gazes. Blinking awkwardly, Brooks, still holding my hand, sensed this and softly stroked the back of my hand. With Alpha's comfort, I gradually calmed down. Many there knew Brooks and treated him with utmost respect. I stayed by his side, somewhat bewildered, hearing him introduce me repeatedly as his soon-to-be spouse and partner. Everyone was polite to me, casting curious and surprised looks. Brooks went to handle some business. I was tired and just sat down to wait for him. As I responded to well-wishers and spaced out, an unexpected person appeared. "Landon, you're here too." Nolan approached, holding a wine glass, speaking arrogantly as always, looking quite fancy now. "But don't get cocky. Once you get dumped, don't come running back crying." I glanced at him, not wanting to talk. "Go away. You can talk now." His eyes showed brief surprise, quickly replaced by disdain. "So what? Just a pretty pet. Soon enough, you'll be despised." I was about to respond when a familiar voice came from behind. The tone was sharp and unmistakably cold. Where did this stray dog come from, barking in front of my baby? I turned and saw Brooks approaching. "Brooks," I called him. When his eyes met mine, the frost inside them melted a bit. "Yeah, Landon." He came beside me and took my hand. The noisy chatter stopped, silence falling instantly. Everyone quietly watched the scene unfold. Nolan's face turned pale, his arrogance completely gone. Any riffraff can come in." Brooks ignored his explanation and scanned the arriving security guards. "Throw him out." Nolan froze, unable to move. Seeing the guards move to grab him, he panicked and blurted out, "Landon once saw some wild guy. Don't be fooled by him. He's not worthy of you." At those words, Brooks' aura darkened, his expression turning cold and fierce. It was the first time I'd seen him like this. Was he angry? He sneered, "You're asking for death. Everyone around Landon has always been me." After that, Brooks looked away, as if even a glance was unlucky. I didn't respond and let the security drag Nolan away. I later heard Marshall wasn't allowed in either. A small incident I didn't care much about. Soon, the auction officially started. I sat with Brooks in the VIP area, watching the items go on display one by one. The auction theme was traditional Chinese culture, which I was very interested in. My eyes wide as I looked at every piece. Brooks was calm, holding one of my hands and gently playing with it, pinching, rubbing, stroking. He occasionally bid, always instantly buying anything that made me exclaim, "Too many." I scratched his palm, reminding him, "Why buy so many?" He said, "For Landon, it's never too many." Before I could say more, the next item appeared, and I recognized it immediately. It was my embroidery work, a Sioux embroidery piece I had spent hundreds of days on, using over 10 stitch techniques and a lot of effort to complete. After finishing it, I had given it to Brooks, hoping he could find a buyer for it. I never imagined seeing it here like this. The starting bid was 800,000, which startled me. One by one, bids came in, more than I expected. In the end, Brooks won it for 7 million. I was so shocked I stumbled over my words. "Isn't that too expensive? And why did you bid on it again?" "Not expensive. I really like it." Alpha raised an eyebrow. "It's a piece Landon embroidered himself." "Of course. I want it. If you like, I can embroider more for you." I whispered to him. I could occasionally hear whispers around me. "Wow, that ring on his neck, that's the symbol of a head of the family, right?" He never cared about these things before, but today Brooks bought so many pieces for him. Looks like the rumors aren't true. Brooks clearly treasures him. "That's right. Did you see? That guy just said a few words and got kicked out. Who is he exactly to get such favor?" The voices were low, but I caught them sometimes. Knowing everyone was talking about us, I felt awkward and uneasy. But soon, Brooks glanced sideways, and the chatter died down immediately. 19. I told Brooks everything about my past under his questioning. He didn't react much then, just lowered his eyes, gently stroked my hair, and said softly, "This is your home now, our home." I smiled slightly. Yeah. Not long after, they started bombarding me with calls, texts, and messages. I had no idea what they wanted and didn't want to know, so I blacklisted them and changed my phone number. From the moment I left their family back then, I decided never to contact them again. Later, I happened to see on TV that they went bankrupt. Marshall even went to prison for illegal activities. As for Nolan, I heard he crashed his car drunk driving and was in the ICU fighting for his life. Our wedding went on as scheduled. It was small and intimate, not many guests, but the venue, decorations, MC, and band were all top-notch. I experienced a grand wedding I had never imagined before. We even invited neighbors from the old town. Seeing familiar faces, I smiled sincerely. Brooks raised his glass and walked toward their table. Several people stood up, honored and surprised. I guessed what he said. Back when Brooks was naive, they had badly influenced him. It was their idea for Brooks to kiss and hug me like that. After the lively moments faded, night came. In the bridal suite, it was just the two of us. With one look, we naturally kissed each other. The faint scent of jasmine and crisp mint spread and intertwined in the air. Alpha's breath was hot, spraying near my ear. "Landon, is this okay?" I raised my hands and wrapped them around his neck. My body sank into the soft bed. Moonlight poured in through the window, casting a thin silver glow on us. 20. Not long after, I changed my name. As she wished, every day was happy. My speech became much smoother, almost like a normal person's. That day, I took Brooks to visit my mother's grave. Winter had come, and the cold wind blew. Brooks stood by my side, tightening my scarf and coat. Then he pinched my cheek. I looked up helplessly and saw the person in his eyes, wrapped up like a ball. I babbled on to my mother about many things. At last, Brooks solemnly promised, "Mom, don't worry, I will love Landon forever, protect him all his life, and treat him well." Pausing, he looked down at my belly and smiled. "And our baby." Snowflakes suddenly began to fall, soft as down, quickly covering the earth with a gentle white veil. I hadn't brought an umbrella. Brooks turned, placing his hand over my head to shield me from the snow. I looked up and saw his hair quickly turning white from the snow. A strange feeling spread inside me. I grabbed his hand and held it tight, letting snowflakes fall on his head. Looking at him, and the reflection of myself in his eyes, a smile bloomed on my lips.